Hello and welcome to this edition of Bayou Time. I'm your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker. Very pleased that you are joining us. However you're joining us, we appreciate it very much. Always glad to have with me my friend and colleague, Earl Eues. Earl with TOSEP.
Hey, Keith. Good evening. Good to see you.
Thank you so very much. So, Earl, we always got lots to talk about, but I guess some of the best news is how we're kind of maintaining here with some of our stats and some of our numbers I know we're kind of feeling, I hate to keep saying it, but I think we're feeling pretty good about where we are with the impact of COVID each day and some of the numbers.
Yeah, I mean, just last week we averaged about 3.2 cases a day, which is very good. Just want to remind the residents that the number of cases is kind of skewed because more and more people are taking home tests,
right,
which is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And those do not get reported to the state. But more the people that are the good thing about the case numbers we're getting now from LDH, those people feel like they're more sick and they need to go to the doctor.
Okay.
So when they're feeling sick enough that they need to go to a physician or to the hospital or to a clinic, then they do a test over there. That gets reported.
Right.
So most of these numbers of these cases are people that are sick.
So we're probably getting a more severity of case in the reporting of the numbers.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
And I'm seeing and hearing there are some people that have gotten this Omicron version that have had some pretty lasting respiratory issues and breathing issues. And so I don't want people to just think that, as we report this positivity rate is low, that we're kind of out of the woods, if you will.
Yeah, we've said it many, many times. People still need to social distance, wash your hands. If you're sick, wear a mask. If you're not feeling well, stay home from work.
Right.
And other activities. The CDC has come out with new guidance on quarantine and isolation procedures, which has lessened the time that you have to stay quarantined. And so hopefully the numbers will stay as low as they are right now. LDH is still showing us at a 1.9% positivity rate. I think it's lower than that.
Okay.
But they haven't updated that number in a couple weeks, and we're in contact right now with LDH to find out why they haven't updated that number. So and the deaths, we've had one death this past week. It's a very low percentage. And then hospitalizations. We had 2 people in the hospital last week.
Right, and then we've had just that one death, and again, one death is still one too many.
Oh yeah, it's one too many.
We talk about that with fatalities and those kinds of things for accidents, but one is still too many. But interestingly enough, I'm hoping that people are being more vigilant about staying home if and when they take that home test that they have. For example, I got ours sent to us, and so if my wife or I are feeling bad in any way, we take a test. And unfortunately, here in the last 2 or 3 months, we haven't had any positive testing.
Right. I had 2 friends last week that contacted me and said they had got COVID. Very minimal symptoms. And they were like, "Well, we need to find out who patient 0 is. How did we get it?" I said, "It's very hard to do that now because you're still going to Walmart, Rouse's, all the major chains and stores, and you're doing things like we were doing before. You wouldn't know who may have given it to you."
That is correct.
So it's still out there.
Right.
And both of these people, both of my friends are fully vaccinated. So, but luckily they're fully vaccinated because they'd be, I hate to say, I'm going to say more sicker, but that's not the right.
There's a higher risk that they'd have had a more severe case.
That's correct.
Okay.
So I still ask people, to get vaccinated. I mean, we're very low in the parish.
We're still 44% or so?
48%.
48%. Okay,
Yeah.
good. I'm glad my numbers were wrong.
I'm going to get happy one day. It's going to be.
Listen, we want to be higher than the divorce rate, right? Let's just get higher than the divorce rate, Divorce rate's still around 50. We get to 50%. That'll be a day for celebration for you?
Yes, I'd be happy. But, I've been telling a lot of people, I think we have maybe achieved some herd immunity
right,
based on the Omicron variant, because I think some people had the Omicron variant, just thought it was a cold.
Right. Or some upper respiratory issue.
That's correct. And then, so not really taking a test, treating it as a cold, and then having it. So I don't have scientific data on that.
No,
But with the number of people that were sick when this Omicron variant first came out and the little cold symptoms and everything, I think we may have hit a little bit of herd immunity.
well, and the other thing that happened in our area is that we had several of these real cold snaps, and people just kind of expect that they're going to get something during the cold weather.
Right.
Not that it's scientifically proven that when cold weather comes you're going to get that, but these upper respiratory infections, these colds, and what people sometimes think is the flu may or may not be. It may have been Omicron, but we just don't know.
Yeah, and look, I mean, we had a fantastic Mardi Gras this year. Lots of people came out because, people were tired of being secluded. People are still, I mean, all the festivals and outdoor events are packed.
Yes, they
Because
are.
people for 2 years have been locked up in their homes and
not able to go.
And not able to go. So, but 2 weeks after Mardi Gras, we didn't see the spike, which to me was awesome.
Right.
So
right. It means that people, two things, that hopefully we're getting some herd immunity, and that people are continuing to be a little more vigilant, even though we're being around each other a
That's
little bit
correct.
more.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
And Earl, I mean, we would kind of be remiss if we didn't spend a little time talking about where we are with some recovery, as we're still. Listen, I come across in my field of work, in the health field, finding people that are still really struggling and trying to find some answers to getting back to their homes or getting back to some normal from Hurricane Ida. And I know that that's a long time away for us to get back. In fact, I don't know that our parish will ever look the same with a lot of the buildings and the damages they've gotten. But it kind of, maybe from your perspective, I know you see and hear a whole lot more in your role about where things are in our recovery process.
Well, I'm hearing, people are starting to do some repair. It's been almost 7 months. And so people are starting to get, or realizing that, you're in this shock phase.
Yeah,
I mean,
shock and denial, the first phase of grief.
That's correct. And the place you lived all your life, that's damaged. And so it takes a little while to recollect yourself and get yourself motivated to get back to trying to get some repairs and do something. And I'm seeing a lot of that within the parish. People are starting to rebuild. And the good thing is people are taking care of themselves and getting rebuilt, and when they're finished taking care of themselves, they're moving on to help somebody else. And I've seen a lot of that.
The really good thing about South Louisiana is the reason that they didn't start with helping themselves right away is that there's a lot of people who are helping each other at the beginning.
Oh, exactly.
And it was almost like this tiered effect where who needs more help? We're going to go there and do that. I can probably think of 15 or 20 examples of areas where people said, we're going to take care of our house as soon as we can. Let's go take care of Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so. They're older. Even with getting stuff out of their yard first, figuring out what their damages were, helping them get to insurance stuff. And you're right. Yeah. And we're the same way. We as Easter's approaching at the end of this Lenten process, where Lent is a time for us to reflect and Easter is a time for hope, that's where we are. My wife and I talk about it. We know her birthday's coming up, and so once we hit her birthday, we know Easter's coming, and it's time of hope. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, the FEMA process is still in place. Mm-hmm. They're still distributing funds to people who are needing funds. They're still looking for sites to put trailers on. We're going to have a site. In fact, they started moving trailers in yesterday, and then a couple of days ago. That unit is going to hold 49 mobile home units.
Oh wow! Where is that site?
Bayou Blue.
In Bayou Blue. Okay, that's another Bayou Blue site, right?
That's correct. So
okay.
they have there are people lined up to go into those trailers. They're making the phone calls to tell them, hey, that your trailer's ready. If they do not need it anymore,
right,
then they move on to the next person and fill. So that'll fill up within the next week or so.
Yeah.
We have 2 more sites, which about 252 pads for mobile homes.
Wow.
That hopefully we'll be ready by the end of May.
Okay.
Beginning of June. FEMA's actually out there building a mobile home park.
Okay,
Putting in the
gotcha.
water lines. You got to put in
Right.
the sewer lines, run the electricity. So it takes a little while to do all of that.
Right.
So that's another, what I said, 252. And then they have about another 528 sites to place mobile homes that they're looking at to place homes. It's a very slow process.
Sure. We got to take our time to do that.
But I want the residents to know FEMA is working as quickly as possible to get as many sites as possible ready. Because and I understand most of the people that need housing right now, they're in a place that they're in a house, a temporary housing situation.
Right.
They may be with a brother, sister, relative, mother-in-law, father-in-law, or something, and they're ready to get out so they can not inconvenience those
Right.
people anymore.
Right.
And so we're trying to help get those people out as soon as possible.
And this may be a question that we need to ask Chris over in the parish, Chris Pulaski, that is, but there have been some reports of people that are having everything set up, but they won't turn anything on because of some question about what zone they're in, or whether or not they can get their trailers at their home, but they won't turn it on. I don't know if you're getting some of those reports.
Yeah, and thanks to Chris Pulaski and Planning and Zoning Department. They're handling all of those the zoning issues.
Okay.
There have been some cases where trailers were moved into places that they weren't supposed to be moved in.
Okay, gotcha, and that's kind of the issue.
And when that happens, they can't hook up the utilities because that trailer is not. It's supposed to be in that zone.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
And then when that happens, they're doing a workaround to get them in a place that they can have the trailer.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So, and we'll talk with Chris about that. But it's one of those things that I appreciate you just kind of being aware of what the need is. And look, it sounds like we've got another 300 or so pending, and then another couple hundred on top of that. So it looks like we're moving forward with a lot more places.
Yeah,
and options.
look, I feel the
strain, the
strain,
pressure.
I guess, and the stress of these people not having a place to go, but we can only move as fast as FEMA moves.
Right. And we're trying, and FEMA's trying.
I wish the parish had 10,000 trailers stored somewhere, and that we could afford it. You can't afford that. The parish
Right.
cannot afford to do that.
Right.
And distribute trailers out right away, but that's just not possible.
Yeah, so we're doing everything we can.
That's
in trying
correct.
To do it. Earl, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about all of these trailers that we're hoping to get placed, and the concern that comes with hurricane season right after it. So you were just talking about the end of May, beginning of June, some very important dates for us, getting some of these more mobile home parks with some of these temporary housing as we get ready for hurricane season. It's a unique and maybe the most interesting time as we prepare for hurricane season. As we thought COVID was an interesting introduction to it, this one's a little bit more.
Yeah, and I'm kind of concerned because we have so many people and residents and families in these temporary trailers.
Yeah.
We have about 2,500 families in temporary housing or trailers or modular mobile homes. Average 3 people a family, I'm looking at about 7,500 people.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of people that we're preparing for right now within the parish to provide sheltering in the event that we even get a tropical storm. Those travel trailers will not be safe with sustained 65, 70 mile an hour winds from a tropical storm.
Right.
So we're working on that. We have been having meetings with the state, because we're going to need some additional help with our sheltering process. We are reaching out to other parishes to provide other places to put people, because we can only hold so many people in the Civic Center. We can only hold so many people in the municipal auditorium. So we're going to have to reach out to our neighboring parishes to help us with some sheltering.
And fortunately, those buildings are capacity and not damaged too much to be able to do that.
That's correct.
So we're fortunate. I'm just thinking about all the buildings that have been damaged in the parish.
Yeah, so yeah, we're fortunate we'll be able to use those facilities. So, but what I'm asking residents to do now, if you are in a travel trailer, modular mobile home, or a home that has sustained sufficient damage and you haven't been able to get all the final repairs done, to please start looking right now to see if you have a relative, a friend, that you can go and evacuate to during a tropical storm category 1 or 2 storm, because you'll be more comfortable at a friend's house or a family member's house, and then in a what I call a general population shelter. And we're hoping that, with a tropical storm, typically you're looking at about 24 to 36 hours that you would have to stay in some sort of shelter. So, as the storm passes and you'll be able to go back to your trailer. But now's the time to plan to look for a place for you to go. Reach out to your friends, your neighbors, your neighbors may be in a trailer, but your former neighbors,
Right.
And family members to see, hey guys, look, if something happens, can I come stay with y'all for a few hours?
Right. And again, we're talking a few hours, hopefully.
Right.
That's what we were planning for, for Ida. We were planning for just a few days.
Right.
And it's very interesting that my wife and I talk about it as we try to just function here 6.5 months later. We got clothes we can't find because it's in storage somewhere that we don't know where it is. Yeah. And so those are just some real things. And that's just stress for people. And I know it's minor compared to some of the other big things. Believe me, I know that that's minor. But it's still a concern that people have, and it's just one of those layers of stress that as most of us, are looking for some hope of getting back to some normalcy.
So some of the other things we're trying to reach out to the residents with is to try to get them some checklist on, if you have to evacuate, these are the items you need to bring, especially the elderly population. So we're hoping that these, we can spread these checklists out and have them available either online or at their facilities if they're assisted living, or and have these checklists available so that in the event that they have to leave, or even right before the hurricane season, they can go down that checklist, put everything they need maybe in a little box, like something that they can carry and bring with them to evacuate with, so they have all their necessities inside that box.
Right.
And our Housing and Human Services Division, Kelly Cunningham's the director of there. She's doing a great job, and she has an employee, Kristen Dupree, who's helping her with all of that. We have met with the parish of Washita.
Okay.
And GOSEP, and we discussed all the sheltering operations that occurred during Ida, and what worked, what didn't work, and what can we improve upon. Wow. And so we got a list of things. I knew it wouldn't be perfect. Mm-hmm. Okay, the first time we ever moved that many people up north, and to Monroe for Gustav. For Gustav, I think they moved 2,600 people.
Wow.
So, but this time we only moved 400. But that was a different scenario. They didn't have a plan to go all the way to Monroe. But this time we went to Monroe, so we're going to go back to Monroe if we have to. If we have a major hurricane, we will call for a mandatory evacuation, and we will transport those that don't have a ride to our point-to-point shelter in Washita. But we want them to be prepared and to bring the things that they need.
And it's interesting because now that list may be a little different than when you leave your house versus leaving your mobile home or your temporary home. And so, and what we plan for and prepare for as we leave.
That's correct. So now's the time to do it.
Start thinking about it.
Start thinking about it, seeing what you need, make sure you have what you need. If you evacuated last year to Monroe, think about what you did up there and what you didn't have and what you didn't bring. So that way now you can prepare for that when you go, if you have to go back.
And just, that's the opportunity to help us learn what people need as well.
That's correct. So over the next, few weeks as I come back on, maybe we'll show these checklists, talk about them, and try to get people as prepared as possible.
We appreciate it, Earl, as always. All right, guys, don't go anywhere. A lot more local programming here on HTV.